Hey, thanks for joining us today. We are, thanks for, excuse me, I cannot read today. Thanks for watching Broken World today. We are breaking down Westworld Season 3 and discussing what might be coming for Season 4. So bring yourselves back online and let's begin analysis. I cannot talk today. This is Broken World. All right, this is Dylan.
Hi, I'm Quin. Hi.
All right, everybody out there, let us know if the audio is not correct or things don't look or sound correct. Let us know. Appreciate that. Because live streams can be quirky.
Quirky.
Yeah.
That's an understatement.
You ain't kidding. All right, so like I said, thanks for joining us today. Whether you're new to the show or you're returning, we appreciate you joining us and glad to have you along. Please like and subscribe and hit the little bell icon.
Ding.
So you know when we drop a new video like these live streams. And this being the end of the Westworld run, probably going to be a while before we do another Westworld video, especially since Season 4 probably won't come out for 2 years. So yeah, there's that. So there will be other things that we talk about. The Walking Dead when the finale comes out. And excuse me, potentially the other shows that are part of the greater Walking Dead universe, as well as other great pop culture items. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget to check out the website at www.broken.pictures.com. And just to reiterate, the like on whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, like makes a big difference, and it's a small thing you can do for us. We'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much. In the special notes category, of course, everybody's on quarantine right now, and so if our feed goes out right now, it's because everybody is online right now. So just keep in mind. Looks like Quinn is popping in and out here.
Yeah, okay. I think my video fixed itself.
Okay. I was trying to change the latency settings, but it didn't. Anyways, so yeah, everything's going on with coronavirus as the nation is coming out of quarantine, lockdown, whatever your point of view on that is. Please be wise, so the rest of us don't. So we don't have to go through a second wave of potential things like some other nations are starting to experience right now. So let's all be kind and be smart and be wise. Thank you very much, and I'll hand it off to you, my friend.
Well, all right. Since I got kicked somehow, I'm guessing you went through everything, and now we're at the thing at that one part where I say, if you haven't left now, well, you got 5 seconds to leave. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because this is your spoiler alert. And also, Westworld is rated for mature audiences, so anything seen or heard on Westworld is probably going to be repeated here. You have been warned.
Westworld is mature.
Mature world.
Yeah, definitely. And not so much this season as it has been in the past, but yes, still. So, Westworld news. Season 3 has ended. We are renewed for Season 4. Some cast members have revealed that they are coming back for Season 4, such as Aaron Paul. And it looks like Tandy Newton, of course, seems to be coming back. And Jeffrey Wright. And Ed Harris. I want to say that Evan Rachel Wood has said that she is coming back in some capacity, but that iteration of Dolores is gone. is dead. However, there is still obviously other copies of her out there. And in this show, you never know. Death isn't real. So
Yeah.
so yeah, we're rumored to go for 5 seasons. So we're going to talk about some of the loose ends that I did. I rewatched the entire season, and of course, we had some questions after the finale. If you were with us last week, just as where things are going or what didn't get tied up. So I've got several pages of questions and notes here that me and Quinn are going to try to tackle. And so yeah, hang on and if you want to jump into the chat and answer and tell us your point of view and ask some questions, that'll be great as well. We'll try to keep an eye on that.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I'll hand it back over to you, my friend.
Well, all right. So, Westworld Season 3. Free will is not free.
Bum bum bum.
Which was the whole thing for the season, I
Yeah,
presume.
that's the big tagline, but that was on all the posters and everything.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that alone, I guess, said a lot without saying a lot. Because
Yeah, yeah,
this whole scene.
they definitely can't put the second part that Dolores said on all the posters. What about it's just effing
So true.
hard. It's real. It's just effing hard. So yeah, let's rate the season as far as like how you felt. I know we talked a little bit about it last week because it was the finale, but just to get things kicked off and go in that direction, what did you think about the season as a whole? Like, we usually scale the episode. Let's scale the season. Unless you need some time, and I'll go ahead and do it.
You go ahead and do it because I'm thinking.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna say, well, I'm gonna make up my own scale. Okay, so I'm gonna say pretty much the same thing I said last week, where of course there's season one that is the highest, and then I want to say season three is just over season two for me. Like I liked season two, I liked it a lot, but I think season three it's just barely better, just a little bit better, not a whole lot because as I rewatch season three, there's a lot of there's either a whole lot of plot holes or there is a lot of things they're leaving to be tied up for season four, leaving open on purpose.
So, touching on that real quick. When it comes to Westworld, I don't think there's ever such thing as a real plot hole.
See, that's
Um,
where I'm at. That's where I'm at with it because I want to believe that it's on purpose, but I'm
yeah.
scared to believe because I've seen shows
um,
go from really awesome to kind of
Lost. But if I, the way I look at TV shows weirdly, and I do with every TV show and every movie that I ever watch, I always look at it as if it's its own separate thing. Like it's the first time I'm seeing it. Like it'll never be how there's my mouse. It'll first time that I'm seeing it, and like there's nothing came before it. Like nothing's gonna come after it. Like this is what it is as a
yeah.
whole. Did I enjoy this? And for season three, disregarding season one and two, I liked it and it was good. If and not attaching it to what came before, it's a completely different show. And that alone, I guess for me, it's as far as quality, it's as good as season one for me because
Wow.
it's about because it seems like it could just be the start of a whole new series in and of itself.
Excuse me. I can see that. Given them the benefit of the doubt, I can see that it is drastically going in a different direction, and I think they set that up pretty well, all things considered. And and like I get what you're saying, like compartmentalized, like on its own merits. I get that. And the way I kind of look at things, like I'll look at it and I'll stay logic while I'm watching a show, and I'll just kind of take it for what it is, whether it's just popcorny stuff or it's like really dramatic or life changing, real stories or whatever. But at the end of it, I want to know, like, my first question is like, okay, how did it make me feel? Did I like it? Did it make me feel good? Was it thought provoking? Did it challenge me in some way? You know, that kind of thing. And then after I've decided how I felt about it, then I'll kind of go back and logically pick it apart because there's a lot of there's a lot of shows that are like B quality or whatever, but they were super fun, and so they're like one of my favorite shows or movies or whatever. But they don't stand up to the quality, standard or whatever, and and it depends, and that sometimes that just doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
for this is a show that we've come to expect both out of, I think, and that's really a interesting and rare thing for some
Yes.
shows.
Yeah.
So that being said, I've got several pages here that I'm going to try to run by you, and I'm going to go as quick as possible. But today's going to be a whole lot of theory crafting, and let's have some fun with it. And just like, okay, well, I saw this, and it didn't make sense. What do you think it is? And I know Quinn is the king of BS, so he can spin it. He can play devil's advocate for the show or or for the fans or whatever. And so, according to Chris, he is, and Chris isn't here tonight. He crashed a little bit early. So let's get started. I watched it from the very beginning all the way through, and just saying overall, I really wish they had those 2 extra episodes because there was a lot of things I felt kind of fell through the cracks as far as like things that didn't show or were assumed to have happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I think they were kind of like they had a little bit of their hand tied behind their back with as far as time goes and budget. They had a lot smaller budget this season, I think. But I mean, when you've got very talented people, they work with what they got and they still make it awesome.
Yeah.
So, all right. You ready? All
Ready.
right.
Let's go.
Okay, starting from the very beginning. When Bernard goes back to Westworld and he pulls up in in the South China Sea, I guess it's a Chinese ship,
Yeah.
and they pull right up to those giant pylons that are in the sea. And then the next scene we see, he is in Westworld. How did he get into Westworld? Like, I know later on they mentioned that security was low and they were using the drones and that kind of thing. But you would think that security, even though manpower is low, that security is high, having just had a massacre happen on your island and the world knows about it. And
Well,
how do you keep people out? Like, I mean, surely if they're paying like 100,000, 10,000 a day or something,
uh-huh.
how do you keep people from just swimming right up and having their own Westworld experience,
Okay. So, all right. I guess here we go. Um, so since he has been at the park, like he lived at the park was his home.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and if it is just like drone security patrolling the perimeter, I think he would have some way of like being able to get around the drones. Since it is on the Westworld server, he could easily just like get in there through some back door that he would know about and make himself invisible and just row your boat right on the shore.
Excuse me. I wish we would have seen how
How
he,
he got in there?
yeah, like extra
Yeah.
3 seconds
Extra
of
30 seconds.
of him, walking or like swimming up to the pylon and pulling open a panel and boop 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 and swimming by and that's it.
Yeah.
Something. But yeah, I mean, I understand that. Man, those two extra
can't say that.
episodes,
Yeah.
yeah, they really could have filled in some gaps. All right, so I keep writing Maeve. My daughter's name is Maeve, but it's spelled differently. So I when I'm writing out Maeve, I'm like, how do I spell this? All right, so when Maeve crippled the simulation, and yeah, so when she's in Warworld, right, and she goes and she puts all of the maps in everybody to get the sim to kind of crash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Lee Sizemore figures out who he is, that he's really a simulation and all that kind of stuff. And everything starts going haywire, and she's using her powers to look through the cameras and figure out where she is, where her pearl is, and plan all this stuff and get the thing to crash, right? Why weren't the techs alerted? Like if they're watching her because they think that because this is I want to say this is before, yeah, this is before Sirach met with her.
Uh-huh.
So they're watching her, and Lee Sizemore even brought her to the forge to try to get the information about the key out of her, right? Because they didn't know that Dolores had the key, and Sizemore had that revelation at the time, like in that conversation. Why, if they're watching this to try to get this information from her, and they've got this big computer running this giant simulation, and things start crashing, what, like,
Okay. Round two.
why weren't they notified? How come, like, when Maeve looks out, they're not just like, okay, what is going on? Something's not right, Like, they're just all just like, coffee. I mean, I know things are moving faster inside the simulation, but I mean, you would still get a notification. You know what I mean? It's like if I'm on my computer and I'm editing something, I mean, I'm going to know when the computer starts to crash, right?
Yes.
It's going to let me know. So
I have two thoughts.
okay.
She could have, as she was doing everything, simultaneously made sure like no notifications, nothing went off, because she could do that. Like, yeah, nothing's wrong, everything still has the all clear, and then everything just went on by its way, and she broke out. Or the people who were watching her were told, yeah, watch her, see if you can get this information out. But really, she was put in the simulation as a test from Sirach.
Okay. I get that she was being tested, and they were trying to get that information from her because they thought that she had that information.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why they even went through the trouble to create the entire simulation in the first place and to recreate the forge and even rebuild Sizemore off of her memories or whatever. They built that character pretty accurately according to Maeve, except when he started,
I'm in love with you.
when he started all that, that's when she was like, wait a minute. Yeah, so they obviously went through a lot of trouble to try to get this information from her. So it just seems like when things start crashing, they might just be like, okay, you know what I mean? They might be like, oh crap, we're about to lose everything or something is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It seems like a plot hole a little bit. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but that just seems like we're watching a show that has raised the level of our thinking. And it's about it's about programming, and it's about robotics, and it's about these sci-fi things. This doesn't seem like some. I mean, because they even went through. I mean, think about season one. They went through the trouble to explain the revelries and how it was carried in the flies and downloaded to the other hosts and all that kind of stuff, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like they went through a lot of care to explain the simulation and how things work in the programming and all that kind of stuff. And this season, it just seems like, yeah, we're just gonna assume all that, even though they had 2 years to get this one together. They had more time,
Yeah.
so
Mm.
mm,
It could be, or it could just be you know, still feel like she just kind of made everything seem like the all clear. Cause
that's possible.
yeah,
I mean, but still, that extra couple seconds where
extra
that
couple
shows,
seconds.
you know, or just, I mean, it's like one line of dialogue. I mean, I know a lot of times some things are written and then they get left on the editing floor, on the cutting room floor because of time and stuff like that. But I mean, you've also got a little explainer after every episode. You can't say,
Yeah,
"Oh yeah, well, hey, da 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 da."
that's true. I guess. I mean, I don't know. Or they have like, y'all are such a good audience, and y'all think so well critically that we're just gonna let you assume this is what happens, and you'll be right.
I
As
mean,
they like twist their mustache.
I agree that you don't take your audience for granted, and that you assume that your audience is smart and everything like that. But like for example, in The Witcher, season one,
Hmm.
they're like the showrunner. She was big. She made a point to say that, hey, we're assuming our audience is smart and they're savvy and they know what's going on, to the point where they even didn't let the audience know when they were jumping through time because they assumed people would get it, and people didn't. And it was, you know what I mean. And now going forward with season two, they've come out and said, hey, we're going to be a lot more straightforward when it comes to letting people know when we're moving around in time and things like
Ah,
that.
oh,
Yeah,
I enjoy.
because we're really savvy with stuff like that too. Even maybe more than the average show watcher or whatever. But I know I was confused until like halfway through the season, and I was almost done playing The Witcher 3 and was very familiar with the universe and everything at that point. And it was halfway through the season when I started clicking. It's like, oh, okay, this was that and that was this. You know.
Mhm.
So it even took me a while to kind of figure things out. So I don't know.
It. How long did it take me? I think 3 episodes after I really started paying attention. Because at first I was just watching. It's like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's a fucking monster. That's really cool.
Yeah, but I mean, as if you're trying to get people into the show in the first season or whatever, or just anyway, I mean, there's a lot of detractors from season three of Westworld who didn't like it at first because it was a lot more straightforward and not what we were expecting. So much so that people even like theory crafted that all this is happening in a mirror world and everything is not as it seems, and it turns out that it was. And so people were like, man, the level of storytelling here was just lesser. But I mean, but what I was saying about like The Witcher, for example, I mean, you can't afford to go 3 episodes and have people not catching on. Otherwise, they're out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people 1, 2 episodes, if they're not getting in, they're like, I'm done.
It was. I can't remember which episode. Like was the because now we didn't start talking about The Witcher for a split second.
Well, okay, we got to get back on track. I
Okay.
I would
All right.
love to talk about The Witcher, but We've got to stay on track with Westworld. If people are watching, they tuned in for the Westworld thing.
Oh, yes,
For the
true.
Westworld.
Okay.
For Westworld.
So,
All right. So another question having to do with Maeve and the simulation and all that stuff. And there was a room full of other pearls, and
yeah,
she programmed that robot to go and break hers out and make a run for it. Who are the other pearls?
probably some of the others that didn't make it through to the other side that's what the only thing I could think. That's the thing that I was thinking at first, because that would be the only way Sirach would have gotten a hold of him, unless he's been making hosts, which I don't think he has.
Yeah, and that's another one. Another question I wrote down later that ties into this is when Sirach is talking to Shaloris, saying that, "Hey, you think you're the only mole that I have inside of Delos?" We never learn who the other mole is, and it
Yeah,
had to have been somebody else that snuck
Charles.
those pearls out of Westworld, because during that time. It obviously wasn't Hale, because last season we were following Hale through all this,
Yeah,
and she was tracking Dolores and Peter Abernathy and trying to sneak. She was still trying to sneak this stuff out. So she was not sneaking out. She was trying to sneak out software, not hardware. But somebody was able to get the hardware out, and we don't know who that was at this point. There are theories that it is Stubbs, but I think that's it kind of makes sense, but because of some of the potential loopholes where things are not adding up. But I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense, knowing that he is a host programmed by Ford incognito. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
and
People didn't
his
know unless
and
Ford
his.
unless Ford was having him play both sides. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we know what one of his cornerstones definitely was before uh, Barnold reprogrammed him. It was to protect all the hosts within the park. And like, if you leave the park, yeah, that's it, fam. I can't protect you. And then his other
Yeah,
one
that's
was,
true. I
and
mean,
his other one was to make sure Bernard was safe.
yeah. So I could
So
see maybe him smuggling some pearls off the island when everything hit the fan to try to save them, but I don't know if getting them to Sirach would be a good idea, because he obviously doesn't care about them unless he was tricked or something. I don't know, but yeah, that doesn't quite add up in my mind either. But
it
yeah,
could have
like you were saying, if
just,
once they're off the island, like he did, like he was ready, he didn't care, you know.
yeah. And it could have just as easily been one of those military dudes that like came in at the end that was led by the really Irish guy that looked like he killed a lot of people. Yeah.
You talking about Connells?
Was that his name?
Talking about in this season or last season?
Season two. Season two.
Oh, okay, okay. The ball-headed guy with the beard.
Yes, that one.
Got you. Okay, yeah, that could have been him. That could have been him.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother thing. They just one line of dialogue. It's like it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that one of my other moles, blah blah blah, was killed.
Yeah.
But he did a lot for us, and we were blah blah blah. You know what I mean? You know, I'm hoping that all this makes sense in season 4, and I know that it will. I'm trusting that it will, because of the caliber of writers they are and everything. Is just at this point, it's starting to look a little Swiss cheesy, you know.
Little Swiss cheese.
All right, so why did Bernard so readily reprogram Stubbs? Was it because of his hidden core directive from Dolores? Because remember, that was a thing. Because Bernard, his big issue was free will and not making the humans do things, right? Or all that kind of stuff. And I want to say, even in that episode, he made a point about free will and that kind of thing. But then by the end of the episode, like, he was just like, oh yeah, Stubbs, psh, you don't have a choice. And just no big deal. Even though, yeah, that's what it was. He was so paranoid that Dolores had done something to him, and didn't think it was right or whatever. But he freely did that to Stubbs and didn't think twice about it.
I
Do you
think
think maybe that had to do with the code that
secret
he didn't
direct.
know about? Yeah, that Dolores had put in him.
No. I think, that's just me thinking, that, well, it has to do with that, but it doesn't have to do with it directly. It's a thing of like, she did something to me. I don't really know if I'm in control, and I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I don't really know if all this is really just happening still. I
Hmm.
need some control. You work for me now. And it's the kind of
Yeah,
thing it was.
but that's the thing is like Bernard, even every iteration of Bernard, whether it was season 2 where he was off his rocker and or Arnold that was suicidal or whatever, though they seemed like it looks like our signal's going poor, so we might be stuttering here a little bit.
Okay.
And if it goes offline, we'll upload the entire thing later. So he doesn't strike me as someone who would do that to other people, and that was why Arnold was even more compassionate with making a point that even the hosts have free will. You know what I mean? Like he's written he's patterned after a guy that was so pro free will that he was trying to give inanimate objects free will. You know what I mean?
Which is why he's damaged Arnold.
Yeah.
But also, he was kind of in that driven state of Dolores is going to wipe out all humanity. I can't waste time, but I need people to help.
Yeah.
So, sorry,
But I mean,
Stubbs.
yeah, except that Stubbs was like, all you had to do was ask. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That just seems a little weak. But I mean, and that's I mean, these are just questions. Either it's just something small that was kind of like made me like, well, why is this? Or it's something that's like, okay, well, maybe this plays into something bigger, and we'll see what by the end of it or whatever. So some of them are just like surface level questions, and some of them are like, okay, I saw this and I wonder why, but I think it goes to this. You know what I mean? For season 4 or something. All right. All right. So another one. How did Dolores get her pearl out of her Hale body into her new body and then reprint Hale's body? I mean, I get once she got it into her new body off island, she was able to reprint Hale and make copies and all that kind of stuff. But how did she get her pearl out of her? Because it's like once you take it out, you know, it's like you can't. You know what I mean? It doesn't work that way unless
I
that.
mean, all you really need is to program a robot arm. And I feel like they have one in there.
But of
That
all the
was
flashes that they could have shown of Bernard's memories or whatever, all they had to show was like it pulling it out and her, and then it go into put it in that one. I mean, 2 seconds, 2 seconds of screen time.
I don't know.
So
Or maybe there's another thing too. Or maybe
did
she
she
made
have
the
help?
huh? She
Did
could have,
did she
or
have
she could
help?
have made. She could have, or she could have made Arnold Bernard first, and then
She
wiped
didn't
his memory.
because well, why would she make him just to wipe his memory and bring him back?
Because she probably told him everything as evil villains do in their monologues. It's like, it's fine, I can tell you this, but you won't remember it anyway.
Well, yeah, she's pressed for time. I don't think that was. But yeah, playing devil's advocate. But yeah, when he comes online, she's already got her new body and made a new Hale body. So, you know.
And then she basically gave him a little, all right, I'll see ya. We'll see each other on the opposite sides probably. Have a good day.
Yeah, and that was another thing that was just kind of didn't make a whole lot of sense is where they were in the in some kind of simulation of him waking up in his house and her talking to him, and he was like, "I never finished this house." Remember that little
Hmm.
flashing back and forth, and it ended up that they were actually like in a chair, and yeah, it was weird. I don't know. Just I don't know. It was just like almost some of the things that that they've done this season are just for the theatricality of it, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in a show that is primed itself on making a whole lot of sense. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. So okay. So yeah. Who is the other mole in Delos that stole Maeve's pearl and the others? We talked about that. All right. If Dolores planned to recruit Caleb from the beginning, why did she ask Connells to get info on him later on?
Who in the beginning?
All right. So after after the after so we know her introduction to Caleb with her falling in his arms and all that kind of stuff. We know that that was a setup, right? And that
Hmm.
she knew him from way back in Park 5, right?
Yep.
And then
Defense
he
World. Yes.
right, yeah, and he ended up surprising her and changed her mind about all that kind of stuff. But then when she was in the ambulance and they got ambushed by the other cops, and she got up and killed the cops and got in the car and left him behind, said, and she asked him his name, and and said he said Caleb Nichols, and she said, well, not anymore, they're going to be looking for you. And then she left. Like I could see strategically where she's playing the bait to get him interested, and she's going to leave and then come back later, right?
Hmm.
I can get that, but then later on, it's like something. I can't remember exactly what happened. It was something happened, and she was like, "Hey, Connells, get me information. Pull up information on Caleb Nichols." And he's like, okay. And he's like, and this is right when Caleb was being dangled off the side of the building, right?
Hmm.
And they had just reactivated his drip and everything. And then to me that just seems like theatrical, because I don't see the sense, and like outside of where is he now, instead of, oh yeah, I was thinking about this guy, give me information on him. Like, you already got all his information. Why are you asking for his information?
But did she or does she? She
She was playing him from the beginning. They
she
revealed
was
that,
playing him from the
remember?
beginning, and she had all the info from him from Westworld, which
Hmm.
was years ago. She still hasn't had access to everybody's files just yet. And
Hmm.
so she was like, "Oh yeah, let me see what his life has been like since then, the when I fell into his arms, and then now, to see who he actually is as a whole, to get the other half of that information." It's like, okay, this is who he really is.
I
Because
don't
then
know.
once she got the profile on him, she read everything and realized, oh snap, they messed you up too.
Like,
So,
I don't know. I would assume that she knew all that beforehand, and that's why she went ahead with trying to recruit him in the first place. Other than just some random memory. I mean, surely she had experiences with other humans that she even referenced at in the final episode, that that there was beauty and all these different things. She had good experiences with other people. Why him?
because
If she didn't know his profile from the beginning.
and I think like super low key, it might go back to like that one scene in season one where she's like, William's gonna come save me. And I think she kind of always had that in the back of her mind. And the only other time she met somebody that was on that level of William's gonna come save me, and William's such a good person, is him.
So during her 30 years in Westworld, there was never a white hat that saved the rancher's daughter.
Dylan, it was nothing but a whole bunch of ritually blood. I feel like there wasn't.
I'm just saying, like
even even like in
I'm just
season
raising the questions. I'm just raising the questions.
tame person we saw was that one rich dude who took his wife or girlfriend with him that was wearing like that blue coat. And then when old dude was giving his monologue, he just like snuck up behind him and shot him. And even then, he was the tamest person in the whole season.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like it doesn't quite, like, all the pieces don't fit together like we're used to seeing them fit together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Because I mean, think about like season one. It's like all these pieces. It's just like everything. Oh my God, William is the man in black. You know, and it's like, and everything just like boom, synced up. Like where is that synchronization in season three?
it's the start of something new because now we know all the past.
Hopefully, it's not something new crappy though. That's
Because like there's no more past to know, I guess, that was relevant to the now, and now we know all the now, so we just have to keep going onward.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's like, it seems like a plot hole.
It just seems like a plot.
It seems like a plot hole. Like, yeah. I mean, you had 2 years to think about it. You couldn't. You didn't see that. Okay. So, all right. Okay. So yeah. Then of course, based on one of the reasons there was the mirror world theory, is because of the messages that Hale left for her son. There were two instances, well, actually three instances, when she watched the video. The first time, the guy came in, let her know, and she kind of, well, okay. So the very beginning of the episode, we see Hale, like, in person, pick up the host and say, "Bring yourself back online," and start recording. And then she started to leave the message. Later on, we see Hale in her office, and somebody comes in and say, "Hey, we found something in the data that you might want to see." And then she watches like a little, like, this is kind of like the intro of it, so we know what it is. And then it goes on, and then later on, we see her watching most of it in full, and that's when we get the information about, I want to say, the "You Are My Sunshine." Even I think maybe she referenced it at the very, very beginning. But anyways, we see one instance of her watching it, and then another instance of her watching it, and her having an emotional reaction to it, rather than just coldly watching it. And both of those instances, the verbiage was different, and the order of how she said it was different. And so that was one of the things that played into the mirror world theory, is that we are watching, because we talked about Rehoboam has all these different strategies and all these parallel versions of things playing out to see which one is the best option, right? And so the theory goes that we're actually seeing some of these things run parallel in the season, but it turned out, as far as we know, not to be like that. It seems to be pretty straightforward. So, is it just an editing error, or is this something that they're setting up for season 4, that they're leaving open? What do you think?
What?
And
Okay, so
there's other things like that in my notes. So,
so I'm gonna use two things as an example. All right. So at the end of season 2, we had the fidelity check with William, and everything. We didn't know when William had died and would have became a host and all that stuff. But then also at the end of this season, we had Arnold waking up from going into the uh,
Sublime.
yeah, the Sublime, the Land Beyond, and it looked like he'd been there for a while. He's covered in dust and everything. But but season two really didn't get answered until like the end of this season. But even still, it might not be what actually happened or whatever's really going on.
Yeah, because in an interview, Jeremy Nolan or Jonathan Nolan said that you should not assume that that is the same William that we saw in this end credit scene.
Yeah.
So are we
So
looking like a third iteration of William? Because they said that that happens in the far, far future. Is it the far, far future that Bernard woke up in, or is it even further out?
so what I'm thinking is all those scenes are probably gonna whatever the final season is, all those scenes will matter. Um
That's when we're going to get the big
yeah.
synchronization.
The super
Fingers
sync
crossed.
that's gonna blow everybody's mind. But I honestly feel like at the beginning of season four, it's gonna be like that same weird symbol, well, the sun and the eclipse like parting, and it's gonna be like super far apart, and then like shot from an airplane, like come around from the window, you see a hand press a button, and then Sirach be like, run simulation 3AC62, and like then it's like, oh, none of that actually happened, even still.
Yeah. That's
So
kind of what I'm leaning towards. It's some of these things that I'm going to get into, and that kind of support that theory, is that even that season three and possibly even some of season two, like you were talking about, is a simulation. And at the beginning, and that's why everything seems to be wrapping. Well, I mean, it seemed to be wrapping up. Now they're trying to figure out what happens after the apocalypse or whatever. But
mhm.
they could do that all. They could wrap all that up in season four, and then just leave it open. Like, oh, now they're going to do their thing in the future, which is kind of like what they did at the end of season two, minus the William after credits scene. So, like, I want to say that it's all just a big simulation, and I'll get into some of that. So, let's keep moving. But yeah, I like where you're going. I like where you're going. This is just another one of those things I saw and I was just like, like why? Okay, so if remember when Sirach brought Maeve into the real world, and they were in the
Mhm.
restaurant, and she was like, "Oh, this is an elaborate one," and he was like, "No, we're in the real world." I mean, it's very possible that could have actually been a simulation, but I digress. If it is what it is, and everything is up front, and they're in Singapore, and she was like, "Well, if you really wanted to impress me, then you would have brought me to Paris," and he was like, "Well, got news for you. Paris doesn't exist anymore, right?"
Mhm.
If it doesn't exist anymore, then why wouldn't they make one of the parks be Paris? Wouldn't people
Aren't
want
they?
to visit?
Wait, isn't
Was it
war?
Warworld's in Italy?
Oh,
I mean, that seems like that just makes sense. I mean, I don't know. That just seems like a missed opportunity. It's like, why wouldn't they make one of the parks Paris? Because that seems like, why wouldn't you want to visit Paris, especially if it's been destroyed? Paris in its height of romanticism and like, I mean, it's the perfect date. It's the perfect getaway.
yes, but also two, three things on this one. People who go to Westworld are depraved. Um,
But that's why there's other parks, right?
I guess that's why there's other parks,
For
but
example, the Raj isn't all about killing and stuff like that. I mean, even though
it's not.
Shogun World was supposed to be like a step deeper into the depravity of
Yeah,
Westworld, you know?
it was during the Edo period in Japan. Yeah, that's nothing but killers.
Right.
Um,
Because guns aren't deadly enough.
because guns aren't deadly enough. Um, Raj World, I mean, you hunted animals, I guess, because that's what they were gonna go do. But it seemed pretty relaxed. But even still,
Like it seemed more paradise ish.
yeah. And it seems like all of them are just kind of like periods in time that are even further back that probably everybody who could have been alive in those times aren't anymore. So I feel like Paris World might have eventually come around if the host hadn't rebelled at some point in time.
Just too
But
soon.
it just basically, yeah, just too soon.
Hmm.
Everybody that survived it and that is alive is still alive, so they don't want to have that. Because I mean, Sirac was woefully wealthy. He was very French. I'm pretty sure I say he was very French. I'm pretty sure he could have like invested in like make a Paris world, but then people who would have survived it that were like closer to the attack and have all sorts of radiation poisoning and things be like would probably have like a really high suicide rate at that place.
Mm,
And
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just my mind that thinks that would be a great opportunity, and not seeing the bad part, the bad potential.
yeah, like I have when it comes to Westworld, I have to look at the bad before I can even think about the good.
Yeah, the Wild West.
Yeah,
Okay, so all right, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read this question before I say it, so that I know what
it's
I'm talking
good.
about.
It's all
Okay, so when Stubbs saved Bernard from Connell's, right?
good. Hmm.
Remember when he showed up and Connell's had taken Bernard, and then Stubbs showed up out of the blue, and he took back his button. Why didn't Why didn't he use it on Connell's? Why didn't he just use the button on Connell's to get the information about Dolores' plan that he had asked him about? Because remember, they were at that Eyes Wide Shut party in that
Oh
building.
Jesus Christ! Yes.
Oh no, no, no! Wait a minute. No, no, no. That wasn't that party. They were at. I want to
Jesus
say they
take
were
my eyes.
in. They were still at the HQ because
Yeah,
remember the French
because
lady came
after
up
that,
to immediately
yeah,
after. Yeah, so he asked him, about Dolores's plan, and like, but he had that button, like, and he had fully planned on using the button on Liam Jr. Why wouldn't he just use that button on Connell's in that moment to say, "Hey, tell me what I want to know"?
because he is
He just didn't think about
Dolores.
it.
I feel like it's not he didn't think about it. I felt like he knew it's Dolores and was like, the button will work, but she might have some
I
sort
mean,
of secret
he
directive
thought
or
that it,
something.
he thought that it might work on the reimagined Liam, the host Liam.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't it work on host Connell's?
It's not, I don't think it's the fact that he didn't think it would work. I think it was he wanted to talk to that Dolores and see what she was actually thinking of her own free will.
Mm. And then they kind of got run off by the other lady that was coming.
Yep.
Eh, like yeah, I mean, I could, yeah. It's just it's loose. It's like it's not as tight storytelling as we're used to seeing. You
And
know.
also, I think super duper extra low key, just in my mind, he's in love with Dolores.
Hmm. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's like one of those things of uh, watching Star Wars 1, 2, and 3 with in your mind, Padme is secretly in love with Obi Wan Kenobi. Like it changes the whole movie.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also like kind of gives Anakin more reason to be upset with
I hate
Obi-Wan.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. All right. So, and one of the things that we brought up a couple episodes back when William was in the reprogramming facility, right? The re-editing facility, and he didn't have his gloves on, and you can clearly see that there are metal tips sticking out from his fingers. All the fingers that are missing. They never addressed that. Is that like why would they go through all instead of just having regular old nubs, why would they go through the effort of making sure that you could see metal tips sticking out? And why would that be necessary? They never gave a reason for that. Other than they're going to reveal later that, haha, we set it up that he was actually a host the whole time.
At some point in time, I still feel like at some point in time, Ford killed William. And yeah. Huh. But I don't know why. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Like, he got killed, or he was killed in the park because he told Ford to, like, let them hurt me, let me hurt them, and then end up just like dying in a shootout for real.
And and he's like, oh crap, we just killed the CEO. Let's make a copy when nobody knows.
Yes. Yeah, it's like,
And then he just like goes crazy and is like, am I a host? Am I not? It's like, I don't know, bro. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I think that is still a legitimate question. It's like, why would they go through the effort of giving him metal tips on the nubs instead of just making it, just regular fingers cut off? Like, why would?
Like, it just hit me of how he was a host the whole time. Because he was just like the others. He was looking for the maze. He was trying to find the maze.
Even
Trying to,
though, even though Ford told him that maze wasn't for him.
yeah. And he was really like, snap. I mean, we seen like the thing of him being a kid, like when he was in therapy, like he was always as a kid had that dark side to him, and Westworld just allowed him to just go full on King
Yeah.
Kong with it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, and if they wanted to make a big deal out of it, it's like he's shorter than his younger self than the actor Jimmy Simpsons that played
yeah,
his younger version.
he
I mean, it's like it wasn't quite. They didn't do it quite right,
and you
but that
shrink a
was still
little
early
bit.
on. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, he was a host, and the reason he's so like messed up as he is, like 100% messed up, and he doesn't have any pullback anymore, is because he was recreated off of only the information they had in Westworld. But
And
not
that's why
at
he
this
had to come once a month, or once for a month out of every year to be updated and be checked and everything.
to make sure fidelity checks.
Boom.
Son of a gun. He was a host the whole
Dude, we
time.
just blew the entire series out of the water. We just solved
And
the whole
then
thing.
and then he really started to lose it. His daughter's like, "You're really starting to lose it." Then he shot her, thinking that she was a host and part of the game, and because his cornerstone was to play the game, beat Ford at the game.
And potentially the information that his wife found out and then his daughter found out could have been that he was a host. But he just thought it was because he was a psychopath or
So
something.
psychopath and super depraved.
You know why? Because it didn't look like anything to him.
Oh, son of a gun! He's a host the whole time. He died in a shootout. God dang it!
Maybe. Hopefully, people. Hopefully, I know this one's going to run long because we've got a lot to talk about. But I mean, people are going to have 2 years to watch these videos. So,
Wow.
all right. So we got to move fast because
Okay.
I haven't even started page 2.
Oh, jeez.
But some of these are going to start to like kind of mesh.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. When Hale is looking at the footage on her computer of Maeve and the others being reprinted, right? The screens still say Delos, even though they already showed earlier in that episode that all the screens were that said Delos changed to Insight. Was that an error in production or was that on purpose? That goes back to the other theory about inconsistencies in different versions of things that we're watching.
Huh. I still feel like it might be part of the mirror theory, or she knows of some private server that still is just Delos.
Well, I mean that was downstairs where, because remember, Maeve had told Sirach that she needed allies, right? And he was reprinting them, and then she, after she went in and saw where William where William was and got the information about Mexico, where Solomon was, right? And then she pulled up the information that they were recreating hosts in the basement. And that's when she went down and crushed Hector, right?
Yes.
Well, all that down there still said Delos, even though earlier in the episode they made a point to show us that everything that said Delos, as soon as Sirach arrived, switched over to Insight.
Probably because Sirach doesn't print hosts. It's still a Delos.
I mean,
thing.
that was also still, well, he owns it. He owns it. That's
owns
his
it.
company.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's on a separate thing, or I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, that was his personal project, in fact, printing those hosts for Maeve.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right, so okay, I'm gonna scratch that one because that one didn't make a whole lot of sense. All right, so when Bernard and Stubbs find William, in after he's undergone AR therapy, or when he's still undergoing AR therapy, and they pull him out, he is on the floor. When they left him in AR therapy, he was strapped into the chair. Why is he on the floor? Is that just an error, or is that something else at play? Or is that supposed to mean something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he didn't pull himself out in his vision or whatever. In his therapy, his younger self unstrapped him, but I mean that obviously wasn't real, right?
Or was it?
Yeah, I don't think it was.
I mean, him being on the floor could be him hitting rock bottom rotations.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they just have him like unstrap him from the chair? Why did they make a point for him to be on the floor? Except that why would they be more concerned with being consistent with the vision than being consistent with the reality of him being in the chair?
Because maybe the vision was realer than we think. Or the part of the therapy for some cases is to make it as real as possible while they're in the goggles. So they somehow unstrapped him like his little self came in there and strapped him, so they unstrapped him as well.
I don't know. I mean, was it just for theatricality, or is it supposed to mean something? I don't know. Or is that another version happening? I don't know. Okay, so excuse me. When okay, this one's kind of big, so I'm gonna try to make sense of it as I ask you. Okay. Okay, so when we get into, and this is starting to get towards the end of the series or season, when we see Jakarta, right, and that's where Musashi was in Jakarta, and he gave the briefcase to the guy to bring to Lawrence later on, right?
Hmm.
So when they're showing the diversion of Jakarta, when it occurs, it says intervention in progress. And this is the episode after Hale was burned. Her family was killed. So I'm trying to make sense of who she's working for, because it seems almost as if she is working on her own accord and not necessarily with Sirach, but she is using Sirach's resources. So I'm trying to figure out, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like like okay. All right, so okay. All right, let me okay, so did Sirach's people pick up Chardlet, Chardlet Hale, and did they tell? I mean, we know that it was Sirach's people that blew up the car, because I mean, Evan Rachel Wood confirmed that on Twitter, and just the guy that we saw, you know, afterwards looked like Sirach's people, right?
Yeah.
And so did after they saw Charlotte climb out from the wreckage, did they pick her up and tell her that Dolores had done this to her? Because it's clear that they're working together, but why would she work with Sirach when she obviously was, like, she just tried to kill Sirach, and she just escaped the Delos compound, right? She killed a bunch of people to get out. You know what I mean? And
Huh.
and 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 her new cornerstone that she told Dolores later on is that she could not see the beauty in humanity because of what they did to innocent people, their own people who were innocent, her family, right?
Hmm.
And that's why she was trying to raise up a host army and kill all the humans, right? Is what we're led to
Yes.
believe. But some of it doesn't quite sync up right there in that moment, because okay, so she calls Musashi Asado, and she says she leaked his location to someone who is eager to catch up with him. And then we see Clem and and uh, and Hanario, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like, okay, she okay, and also added to that later on, when Maeve shows up in Mexico to fight Dolores at Solomon's compound where Solomon is kept, she seems pissed off at Dolores for sending her copies to their deaths, and she is outraged that Dolores would try to align her motives with hers. So it seems like she has info from Hale about this, like that because that was what Hale was saying, is that, and even when Hale was cutting herself and met Dolores at the hotel, and they got into the elevator, and Dolores was saying, "Hey, buy out the rooms on either side as well," and she said, "Well, is that because you're going to have to kill me?" And she was like, "I don't think it's going to come to that." So it seems like that was already in her mind, that she was replaceable and being used at that point, which would make sense, because later on we see that that she had uh, had made Dolores's body to be under her own control when she saw Dolores in the finale, right?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to connect the pieces. It seems like Maeve knew what happened to Charlotte, and that's why she was pissed at Dolores because Dolores was trying to say, "Hey, I don't want to fight you," da da da, and she was like, "Don't try to align your motives with me. You left your copies. All you want. You don't want to make a new world for us. You want to make a new world for yourself and your copies, and you left your copies to die. It's just for you, and blah blah blah. Yeah, right."
Hmm.